Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about why Garen isn't broken. Now this might sound wild to some people and I understand why that is, but I'm here to explain like what weaknesses Garen has, my evidence for why I think the champion isn't that good just based on how much he's picked and how like who's playing him and stuff like that. We'll get into all of that good stuff, but my main point in this video is Garen is not as OP as people let on, or not as strong as people think. I think Garen has a lot of weaknesses. He can get punished in many ways, and he struggles with a lot of different things in games that he's drafted in. So let me get into that, especially in high elo, right? I think Garen's a great low elo champ, but in high elo, challenger, I don't know why people are saying this champ is OP. I have no clue. So we'll get into that. So I have a notepad here of a list of points that will be very important to basically proving why I have this opinion. Like I don't base my opinion based entirely on my bias of playing the champion. I think finding evidence for this is a good idea, even if I'm biased, but I really do think like there's evidence to support my ideas here. So first of all, there's not many high elo Garen one tricks. I'm one of them on NA. I'm one of basically two that are in Challenger. I don't think Sunlight is even a Garen one trick anymore. As you can see, he's got 28% play rate on him. So I'm literally basically the highest elo Garen one trick right now in terms of one tricks on NA, right? So there's that. There's only 5 people in Challenger on Garen. 2 of these accounts are mine, so technically 4 unique accounts of 4 unique individuals that have Challenger on Garen. As you can see, like there's only 4 players with Challenger on the champion, which I feel like is pretty. It points out like I think the champion isn't completely terrible. I'm not saying he's bad. I don't think he's as OP as people are saying. You go to another champion that's literally being talked about half the amount. You know, his name is Darius, as you can see, has 8 players in Challenger. And yes, this is like 21% play rate and stuff like that. But why, if Garen is so OP, why aren't people picking this champion up and putting it in their champion pool? Why is it just a bunch of OTPs? Like that's my question. Like I feel like good champions, like Renekton, like an actual good champion, right? Bunch of people just have him in their champion pool, like the best players, like 1500 LP players, just have Renekton in their champion pool because he's a strong champion. And, you don't need to OTP him to know him in and out to actually climb on him because he's actually pretty strong right now. So everyone can play him and get Challenger. Like how many Challenger accounts there are with Renekton games on them, right? There's obviously some Renekton OTPs that make it up there, but as you can see, look at that. Like there's a billion accounts with Challenger Renekton games because the champion's OP. Champion's OP right now. If you go to u.gg, you can see what Renekton's pick rate is. Win rate is just ignore that because it's just a low sample size of matches, but the pick rate still matters because people pick what they think will win them the game. And if people think, Jax, Renekton, Aatrox are good, they're going to pick them. And if people think that Garen is a little bit mediocre, they're going to pick him less. Just based on their experiences from playing the champion and playing this champion, they have decided that this champion is worth more playing. Now, you could argue, well, people don't play Garen because he's boring. And I really have to disagree with this. People will pick anything that makes them win in League. Anything. Especially in Challenger. They will pick whatever, they'll do whatever it takes. They'll play, if they think Jax is boring, they'll still play Jax. They have to, because if they want to climb to Challenger and get rank 1, you have to compete with other people who are abusing the same OP things. So you have to play it yourself. That's kind of the problem. I feel like a lot of people playing Garen and high elo are playing him because they enjoy him, not because the champion is broken. Like, no one's queuing up Garen and high elo to be like, I'm going to get so much free OP playing this broken champion. Like, no, like, people do that when they're playing Jax and when they're playing Renekton. Like, that's what people say when they play these champs. That's not what they say when they play Garen. That's pretty important, I feel like, because people just pick what wants them to, like, what they want to win with. They will pick things like this that consistently anyone can integrate into their champion pool and it will be good. You don't have to one trick Renekton to climb as him. In my opinion, you do have to one trick on Garen to climb as him very effectively. So there's that. I think that's very important. I think not many Garen one tricks being in there is kind of like not That's not a good sign for Garen's strength. I also think pick rate in terms of like if you compare Garen to everyone else, as I said earlier, he is being picked way less, and people pick what makes them win in the game. Like they will pick what makes them win. Now, obviously, in lower elos, like if we're not in challenger, Garen's number 10, and he's actually pretty like he's a good all around champion and master plus. I think like he's not like unplayable by any metric. I think he's definitely like got things he can do. But as you get into the really high ranks, like challenger, I don't understand how people can call his champ broken. Like I have no clue. It's very weird to me. People pick what they think will make them win the game, and where's the Garen being picked, Especially when he's so easy, supposedly. Everyone can play him, and why are they not playing him if it's free OP? That's my question I have to ask, right? Like, I just don't understand it. All right, so matchups are a pretty big reason for why Garen struggles. Garen is a scaling champion. As you can see, there's a lot of games where I go flash goes phase rush, and if I'm against a champion like Warwick with a really strong early game, all I can really do is go conditioning overgrowth, health rune, phase rush, gathering storm, go these full scaling runes, full scaling build. Absolutely can't do anything in laning phase. And why is that? Garen was really strong at mid game. That's when he's strongest. That's when he one-shots people with one combo. Mostly ADCs, not really bruisers. So it's like he's really good at level 11 stride breaker. The problem is you're sitting under your tower for a long period of time just trying to scale. This makes your jungler's life really hard because you're not able to help them at all. If a wave crashes under your tower because you're constantly getting slow push crashed into, you're going to have a really hard time trying to rotate to help your jungler, especially when even if you do 0 damage early game because Garen's damage sucks. I can show you this. Garen versus Darius is a very classic matchup. It's a very common counter to Garen. And there's a lot of matchups that work very similarly to Darius as Garen. I think Garen struggles with a lot of matchups similarly to Darius. He always gets run down, cannot ever crash the wave if he's still pushing into Darius. Just watch this. Let's watch this. Garen gets hit by auto W, and he's dead from full HP if he doesn't flash, because Darius can E when Garen uses his phase rush, and then cancels his phase rush, and boom, he's dead from full HP because Darius autos a few more times in R's, and then he's dead. How wild is that? So Garen is forced to never enter into Darius's W range, otherwise he loses his flash. From full HP, and there's multiple matchups like this. So to me, you're playing a scaling champion that is completely down, like he's down like 24 CS right now, and he's gonna be down more. Basically unable to do anything. Oh yeah, also Garen's really easy to dive. You would assume like through his W it would be hard, but since Garen doesn't have any dashes, his only saving grace is really a silence. He doesn't really have a good way of denying dives. He doesn't hard CC people, so they can move wherever they want. And so as you can see, Blitzcrank just presses Q on the Garen without flash since he lost flash for walking up even a little bit versus Darius, and he's dead. And if you die like this as a stat checking champion like Garen and you're down in stats versus another stat checker, or even a mechanical champion like Fiora, if you're down in stats versus these champions, you are not ever going to win. You can never stat check your opponent, ever. So you have to play laning phase perfectly. You can never, ever, ever walk up for CS versus these certain champions, and people will always pick them versus you. And these are even blind pickable champs like Rumble. Rumble's a blind pickable champ right now, and he's able to do this to you. Watch this. Isn't this cool? And with his jungler from nearly full HP, even when I'm gonna have my W up and very soon, I will still get 100 to 0'd under tower if I stay. So in this clip, I have to run all the way away like this. I have to give like 5 waves under my tower, unfortunately, just because Rumble has so much dive pressure on me, just like many other champions with his jungler. And all I can do is just let the wave crash like this, because if I ever try to contest him when the wave is so pushing into me, I'm going to die, because he just does too much damage, just like the Darius did in the last clip. I would have to flash away immediately if I contest him. So for this reason, I think Garen has a lot of counterplay. I think Garen, if you communicate with your jungler to dive him and punish him early when he goes full scaling runes and full flash goes phase rush, he's not able to crash waves if you freeze it. He's not able to deal with dives if he gets dove when you still push crash. So it's really rough for him to play. I think Garen has a lot of issues and a lot of matchups just like this. I can list them off to you if you want, right here. I think Jax with lethal tempo actually completely destroys phase rush Garen in laning phase, and Jax will be up like 40 CS if he plays well. I think Renekton's the same story if he's really good with wave management. Aatrox, same thing. Aatrox is literally able to EQ like across the whole lane and just zone Garen off of XP at times if the wave's slow pushing Aatrox. Yone is able to basically just run you down with lethal tempo autos and R you from like nearly full HP and just kill you if you have phase rush. You need to go Conquer to deal with a lot of these champions. And the problem is, if you go Conquer on Garen, you're not going to scale that well into the mid to late game, and I'll show you why that is. You're going to need phase rush if you're going to want to play mid to late game. So even if you go Conqueror to fix your waves, and your opponent plays a bit safer against your Conqueror, you don't really get to do anything mid to late game anyway, because you need phase rush to scale up. Rumble, same story. Fiora, you don't really win at all. Oh yeah, and there's also certain champions that beat Garen in the early game and also outscale him, like Fiora, like Rumble to an extent. Like Cannon, right? These champions will go up 2,000 gold on you in laning phase, and then you don't have a saving grace at all because they just crush you with their better items, better scalings. It's rough. It's rough out here. You know, Fiora does this, Camille does this, you have to permaban Camille. Not too many champions outscale Garen though, since he is inherently a scaling champion, but there are matchups where that happens, and they'll still stomp you in CS, which is not fun. Jace is like that to an extent as well if the Jace player is really good. So there's a lot of counterplay. There's so many bad matchups. You know, Poppy's really bad in lane. Cannon's really bad in lane. Jace really bad in lane. Xante got nerfed, so it's fine. Akali can be really bad in lane. Gwen, if they're super good. Like, a lot of these matchups, it really just scales with elo. A lot of these champions will beat Garen harder the better the player is piloting these difficult champions. So Tryndamere, oh my god, completely unplayable, right? Like, there's so many bad matchups that people can be picking, and they do, and they completely, you know, they destroy me for it. So that's super fun. Here's a clip of me. Oh yeah, and also next part of my notes, compositions, right? Here's the issue with Garen as well. He's a immobile melee champion, so yes, he does go Flash Ghost Phase Rush to help deal with this, and he has Stride Breaker, he goes Double Zeal even, he goes all of this different move speed stuff, so he can actually keep up with the Season 13 champions. And even though he does this, there's a lot of compositions, and this isn't even the worst of them. Like, there's a Kiana, there's a Vi in there, there's a Nami. Honestly, Nami doesn't really matter for Garen, but just because they have a Syndra, just check out what happens. Oh yeah, Vi R as well, I guess, also pushes me away, but look at this. Garen, this is kind of a quick clip. I should have made it a bit longer, but Thresh is basically fishing for a hook, and I am unable to start the fight ever myself, even though I'm like level 15. I'm like super duper strong. I'm super fed in this clip. I'm like 6-0, and I have like 3 items or something like that. And I'm still unable to like walk up at all and start anything, because if I do, I get stunned by Nami, by Syndra, by Vi, whatever, and I get one shot. So I have to wait for my Thresh to do something, first of all. My Thresh does something, so I try to capitalize on it. And then I get pushed away by 2 different abilities. And the problem is, Garen's Q and his E have massive cooldowns. Same with his W. Really long cooldowns. Super long, right? And I activated my Phase Rush, so that's even worse. I can't even go in. So literally, my E is about to come off cooldown, and Garen's E doesn't start. The cooldown doesn't start until you're finished spinning. So now my E is on cooldown for 6 seconds. My W's on cooldown for 10. The Q's up in 2. I literally can't do anything. I literally can't. I could not do a single thing that fight. Just because I got hit by 2 abilities that pushed me away, even though I'm 3 items, I can't do anything. How wild is that? Just because of a team composition as well. So you can counter Garen in this way. Like, if you draft a Syndra and a Vi, he's going to have a really hard time playing the game. Like, a very, very hard time. Janna with R, stuff like that. You know, Milio even, just to deny his burst. Like, there's really a lot of champions you can pick to destroy Garen. Like I literally couldn't do anything in this team fight. So there's that as well, right? Very weak early, so we can get into this. I mean, I already sort of explained this. You get pushed into by every champion, and then your enemy top laner can crash 3 waves and basically just run you down, or run your jungler down, sorry. Here's a matchup versus Fiora, another really hard matchup. She outscales you for some reason. She also outscales you. Here, watch this. This is fun. This is fun, guys. Level 1. Look, this is the champion that outscales me. Check this out, guys. Champion that outscales me to high heavens, like inside lane, just completely sends me to hell. If I do anything. Look at this. And look what she does level 1 to me. I can't do anything back. Look at that. Look at how much damage I take. Level 1. Champion outscales me, by the way. And, like, I just can't, bro. And it's like, people say, like, Garen beats these champions as well. It makes me lose my mind because you just need to watch the laning phase. Just watch the laning. I tell my Taric to path bottom this game because if he comes top, Fiora's gonna slow push crash through waves and invade him with Ivern. So my Taric can't play the game if he paths top. And sometimes your jungler needs to path top because sometimes that's the same problem in bot lane. Because look, we have Yone and we have Emilio. I guess they have Zeri, Soraka, but sometimes if they have, like, imagine they had a Draven or something like that. Like, bro, like, if they have Draven and my jungler has to path to that, and then Draven's gonna have Proud because he's Draven. Let's say he has an engaged support. Like, literally, if they have Draven Nautilus or something, like we literally can't play the game because we have drafted a scaling champ in top, scaling champs in bot. Imagine, right? So it's completely unplayable for your jungler if you pick this champion, unless your bot lane is strong early game to balance out the problem. And then you have this, right? Like you just can't do anything. Like, she will zone you off completely early game. She's just going to have the slow push. Almost every matchup goes like this because every champion has more sustained damage than Garen. So you just get destroyed if you do anything. As you can see. And I'm not playing these trades bad. Like, I'm literally an OTP. I played this matchup for a long time. I still struggle. Because it's just really difficult to deal with. Like, you're gonna get hit by one vital and you can't hit a single spin because she can Kai outside of your spin, and then she can re-engage when your E's on cooldown, and her cooldowns are way lower than your spin. And if you don't have your spin up, which is all of your damage on Garen, by the way, you're just gonna get destroyed. So that's that's the problem. Like, she outscales me to high heavens, guys. And I canceled an auto, so I didn't get my phase rush. I canceled one auto. Didn't get phase rush. One auto is all I had to do. Cancel to not get my phase rush, and she just completely annihilates me. Sends me to hell. Look at that. Very nice, right? And then I'm super low HP. I'm super low HP for walking up a little bit. I walked up a little bit, and I accidentally canceled one auto. So by the way, if you don't play perfect on Garen, you just drop to 1 HP. And then I just get dove by the enemy mid laner. And by the way, this is all happening against a champion that hard outscales me. And even if I got my phase rush, I would have still lost the trade extremely hard. If I got my phase rush and didn't cancel the auto. And this is a champion that hard mega outscales me. Like, what? And people say Garen's OP. Just watch the laning phase. Look at what happens in the laning phase. I never have Prow for my jungler. I still get destroyed. I'm down CS and she still outscales me. So, like, what is the point of my champion at that point? Yeah, so another issue on Garen is the weak in team fights versus marksmen. So why do I say this? Well, the problem that Garen has versus marksmen is a lot of them in the meta currently, either they completely kite him to the next dimension with Kaisa R, like, let's say, just completely ignores your entire spin if she uses it. And by the way, her massive true damage shield blocks your whole R. Ezreal presses E. Jinx gets 4 billion move speed with her passive. Kalista is Kalista, so you're gonna get guided. Xayah presses R. Like, it's rough. And not only that, all of these champions have incredible sustained damage. Garen, if he runs out of E and he's next to an ADC in a team fight, not only can he not do anything to that ADC, even if he's right on top of them, if his E runs out, all of his damage is gone, by the way. He has no escape if his phase rush is down. Literally, the ADC just autos him to death from full HP, and he cannot do anything other than press R on them before he dies, even if they're like full HP or something. Garen struggles a lot versus marksmen. He's really good actually versus assassins, right? He's great versus assassins, but we're not even seeing those in the meta right now. We're seeing Orianna, Syndra, Jace, Yone sorta, you know, but then Tristana, and then Talia, right? Like, that's what we're seeing in the meta right now. Nico, that's what Ari. Like, we're seeing this crazy annoying mage meta for Garen, Zoe, like stuff like this, and you can't play because right now meta Kaisa, Ezreal, Jinx, Kalista. How are you supposed to play? Then engage supports also destroy Garen because he can't ever kill them because they're too tanky. And then they're also just going to CC him for 10 years and he gets one shot by the sustained damage ADC. So he's never able to even get on the ADC, and even if he does, he just gets CC'd to death. So that's cool, right? Compositions and stuff like that. You know, compositions and just weak versus marksmen, which ADCs are pretty much like the hallmark of the game right now. Like they are literally like the most important part of team comps a lot of the time. Requires help to crash waves if he goes scaling runes. So here's the thing, right? We can go back to this Darius clip. Here. And let's see, actually, there will be moments where Garen is slow pushing back into Darius. Yeah, right here. So, yes, Darius is fed here, so yes, he should win, of course. He should win. But this scenario happens to Garen even if he's even CS. Even if, like, let's say he's even items with the Darius. Darius will be able to freeze the wave like this. Many champions can do this, by the way, tons of them. And Garen cannot crash this wave. He's not able to. It's not possible. This wave will slow push into Darius, and Darius can just basically run down Garen the whole lane if he attempts to even touch the wave, because Darius just needs to hit 1W. Multiple champions can do this. Fiora, Tryndamere, Jax, Aatrox, right? All of these champions have ways of running Garen down the lane if he tries to walk up when the wave's frozen. And if the enemy jungler is playing topside and you try to proxy to break the freeze, it's not going to work because you'll just get collapsed on by 2 people and you'll die. So that's really fun, isn't it? You're not able to fix your wave unless you get jungle help. So you're going to be down 30 CS like this Garen is. And you're not actually going to pop off in scaling too well because a lot of these meta champions scale really well. Renekton scales well into team fights. Jax scales well overall. Aatrox scales all right, but Yone scales well. Rumble scales well. Fiora scales well. Kennen scales well. Jace, you get it. You get the point. And these champions can harass you off of the wave even when it slow pushes to them. A lot of champions are able to use the minion advantage to crash the wave. Garen is really unable to a lot of the time, especially with phase rush. So even in matchups, there's lots of counterplay for his opponent to fight extra aggressive and push Garen to his... Okay, so I didn't say this correctly. Basically, let's say you're against something more fair. Like, let's say you're against like Pantheon, right? Okay, I think Pantheon's a more fair champion because you outscale him at 1 item, and there's just a lot more ways than a lot of people realize to punish Garen in lane, other than just perma-shoving the wave and trying to poke him under the tower. Like, a lot of champions like Olaf, Aurelia, Ornn, even these champions that Garen does like pretty alright into, you have a lot of ways of stopping the Garen from CSing. Especially if he goes phase rush, just freeze the wave. If you freeze the wave against Garen, he's unable to crash it a lot of the time unless he can proxy. And if he can't proxy, then he's literally doomed to miss like 40 CS. And if he misses 40 CS, he better have conditioning overgrowth and have full scaling runes to make up for that gold deficit. Like, that's the problem, because you're just going to get zoned off of wave management. It's like you're playing Nasus as Garen, to be honest, a lot of the time. It's like you're playing Nasus and you're unable to fix the wave unless your jungler comes top. And this happens in a lot of matchups. Like, anyone can do it. Another reason people are saying Garen is broken, is because at Worlds, Adam picked Garen. Adam's a really good player who's played Garen, Darius, Olaf, I think something else as well, for a long time. Garen is, again, not a good champion in high elo. The only reason Adam was able to get away with picking Garen at Worlds, or the play-ins at Worlds, was because he was against a team that, well, to be quite frank, was a little bit suboptimal at punishing Garen. I don't think Licorice knew his matchup very well. This is what Adam even said in an interview. I picked Garen and Darius and these other champions because I believe that I can get away with it because my opponents haven't had time to practice it in North America. I think he said something like that. They haven't had time to practice the matchup, so I picked the champion for that reason. They wouldn't be able to punish it. There you go. That's the result. He was able to come out on top, especially when they picked Jax blind, which is actually a pretty even matchup for Garen in a lot of circumstances. Especially if you know more than the Jax player, you're going to actually have a pretty easy time. Garen was only able to be picked in that play-ins game because of the sheer amount of games that Adam already has on the champ. No pro player is picking this champion up and being like, guys, I'm going to pick Garen. We're going to win because the champ's OP. Like, no one's doing that. Like, literally no one's doing that. Adam is just a well-known Garen player for a long time. He's played other champions as well that are off meta in terms of pro play meta. So I mean, there you go. You know, that's my explanation. I think Garen literally just gets destroyed in lane if people play well. And if he gets to scale for free, then he's going to pop off. And that's why he's going to feel a little bit broken if you didn't punish him. Because he's basically a Nasus. He's basically a Nasus. He pops off at like one item and like level 11. He just goes crazy compared to a lot of other champions. So punish Garen in laning phase if you want to stop calling him broken. Like, that's what you got to do. Anyway, hopefully this is informative.